So I found this video and it looks pretty interesting. So we're gonna check it out.
SpongeBob is a character with no need for introduction, as his show is easily one of the most popular cartoons of all time, and his lost media is one of the most popular to research. I'm not sure if it's something related to SpongeBob himself, the kind of lost content that he's been featured in, or simply the fact that he's connected to the Nickelodeon lost media rabbit hole, but topics involving the little yellow guy have always been a fan favorite.
I remember one thing I'm gonna look up first. Is I'm pretty sure it was found, and we're gonna watch it. Yes, right here.
Hey, Patrick, how about a glass of delicious, creamy chocolate milk?
Oh, yummy! I love chocolate milk.
And it's good for you.
Chocolate milk's not good for you though.
Chocolate milk. You can absorb it for yourself. Got chocolate milk?
There we go. Yep, that one's the most known one. I'm pretty sure.
And even outside of it. Over the span of the many years of lost SpongeBob content, there have been so many famous searches like Astrology with Squidward and A Day with SpongeBob, as well as some smaller ones too, like the Got Milk commercial and MTV
Yep.
video mods. The range of content and interest is so wide with these topics that SpongeBob feels like it's become its own category of lost media. And in today's video, I'd like to focus in more on these lesser known topics that could be considered very rare and go deeper into the rabbit hole of lost content from this series, with a couple of topics that I am particularly looking forward to covering in this video. And there are a couple in here that you might have come across yourself. When it comes to the history of SpongeBob and his early years of development, there is a certain level of interest to be had.
I'm still gonna listen to it, but I'm gonna change the title.
The show. I think this is the result of a historical standpoint more than anything else, getting to look at SpongeBob from a drastically different point in time compared to how we see the character nowadays and know him so well. And for that reason, it's not uncommon to see cells from early episodes sell for hundreds,
Check this
or
out.
ARGs that try to take us back to the late 90s. But aside from these, there's a sort of time capsule that exists, which embodies the early spirit of the show, and is claimed to contain some goodies within. However, it hasn't been completely found yet, becoming an item highly coveted by collectors and archivists alike. This piece of lost media is the SpongeBob SquarePants press kit from 1999, the first piece of SpongeBob merchandise to ever be distributed for the show. For those
You thought that
unaware,
would have
the
been
press kit is
heavily
essentially
bought,
an
or
advertisement for
not
a
bought, but
marketed
like
product that is given out to industry
archived.
employees and the media in order to help promote the product and hype it up. And the SpongeBob one is no exception, as we can get a peek at what its contents contain from a few photos of it that exist online. The Lost Media Wiki states that these photos came from an eBay auction of the kit, apparently the only one that's ever occurred, which means we wouldn't have any idea this exists if it hadn't been for that one sale. I tried to look on WorthPoint to see if I could find an archive of this listing, but nothing came up, so it's not clear who the seller was or how they acquired it specifically. And as for the content itself, there's quite a bit that was revealed.
There's a good chance it's
Like
fake.
announcing its premiere,
Right.
episode summaries, and an overview of the show itself. However, what's most interesting about this one, and why it's become rather desired,
If
is
it's
the
too good to be
variety
true,
of
it
its
probably
theme.
is.
This press kit is commonly referred to as the Ain't Life a Beach kit, due to an inserted card that uses that name. It's a pun on that old phrase. Though interestingly, an official book was published in 2001 by Nickelodeon called Life's a Beach, that was said to be marketed towards adults, and feels like an obvious reference to this press kit's tagline. The Lost Media Wiki article also states that more of the kit's content contains raunchy taglines and pop culture references that were quickly dropped from the show's advertising. But aside from the title, nothing else that fits that description is visible in the pictures we've seen. It's a mystery what else is in here,
No wonder
It
it's
seems
not
likely that
found.
Heavy
People,
Rain,
why would Nickelodeon want
because as
that being
far as
on,
I'm aware,
like,
no other copies
on
of this
SpongeBob?
press kit have ever resurfaced, and there's not even that much
And they made that
information
one cussing
online
video
about them.
or cussing
One
episode.
of the only other places online that even mentions the press kit is the SpongeBob Wiki, though its article doesn't provide any other details about it. It is mentioned, however, that this press kit has been seen in the backgrounds of several DVD special features, though these are not specifically listed or shown. I'm guessing it appears on the back shelves of employees during interviews or somewhere around Nickelodeon studios. It's definitely likely that more are still out there. When
Yeah,
you
why
think
would they
about
only
the
make
missing
one?
pieces of SpongeBob Lost media that were being searched for in the late 2010s, the rehydrated animated short is one that has to be brought up, and probably feels nostalgic to a lot of people. This is actually the second topic of the video because, believe it or not, the complete production has yet to be found, and I think everyone kind of forgot about that, or that it was even a thing at all. It's been years at this point since the initial search, so for those who didn't follow the topic back in the day, SpongeBob Rehydrated is a CGI short that aired on Nickelodeon back in the early 2000s, with a concept that heavily parodies the
Alright.
Matrix films down to the wardrobe the characters appear in. Actually, this detail would lead to a claim that the short's actual title was The Sponge Tricks,
Dude, so I
which
want to
was
see a
also revealed
SpongeBob
during
Matrix
initial
movie. That
discovery
seems
in
so cool.
2016, after a clip showing its existence was found from a channel
This needs to be a video
in
game.
2003. At the time, it was believed that the entire animation was around 10 minutes long, and nobody knew why it even existed in the first place, especially having been CGI and not the usual 2D animation that SpongeBob materials were made with. Vincent Waller, who was often contacted about SpongeBob Lost Media for his involvement with production of the show, initially dismissed this as an unofficial piece of animation, before admitting that he knew nothing about it. If you were following the search back then, you might remember how it spread from its initial discussion on 4chan to the Lost Media Wiki and SpongeBob communities, where it gained the recognition that it still has to this day.
Is it found though?
I remember back
I mean, yeah, he
then,
played
I
a little
almost
bit, but
wanted
like
to
it's
make a
all
dedicated
found.
video talking about the topic, but the search effort seemed to be moving too fast to keep up with a video. And it was through this quick spread how people were able to find more content from it. Only a few months after the search began, the portfolio of a Nick digital animator named Randy Gossman was located, and in it contained 30 seconds of the short. Through an interaction with him, all was revealed, including that the official title of the short was SpongeBob Rehydrated, and was supposed to be a parody of The Matrix Reloaded. He released a statement on the SpongeBob Wiki back in 2017, and stated that the animation was, in part, a little something extra that the Employee of the Month animation team thought would be funny. Nick may have used it in some of their continuity. No, it was not a 10-minute short, and there was no videotape of it sold. It was not a lost episode. It was less than a minute long, and the 40-second YouTube clip I was sent shows all that we ever made. The writers at Nick Animation were not involved in it at all. They were never involved in the animation for video games with Nick Digital, which is why the show directors wouldn't have known about it. Despite the animation having been recovered not long after the search began, the audio was not included with the copy from Gossman's portfolio, and to this day, it remains lost.
Dang, that
Gossman
sucks. I thought it would have
used a
been
generic
completely
audio
found, but
that is
apparently
used
not.
throughout his entire demo, but claims that the short originally had a different audio track with sound effects, and makes no mention of having it. I'm kind of surprised that after all these years since the animation was found, no one has come across a recording of this from when it aired on TV. However, I feel like this is a topic that can definitely be found by looking through old VHS tapes and getting more people to rediscover its existence. We know it aired in 2003, with the Matrix Reloaded film having been released in May of the same year. It seems likely that Nickelodeon would have aired the short during this time, so direct your efforts to April, May, and June of 2003. And while this isn't necessarily a topic that we have to contact anyone else about, it's possible there are others at Nickelodeon who would have access to it, or perhaps Randy Gossman has contacts with other copies. It doesn't seem like anyone asked about that at the time, but I still believe we can find this on a VHS tape that someone recorded and doesn't know they have. I'd love to conclude this years-old mystery and find a little bit of old lost media for the community. Another one of my favorite topics from this
I hope they
video
find that.
takes us to the
That'd be
Lost
cool,
Media
bro.
forums for SpongeBob mystery that feels like it came right out of the late 2010s
What's up,
among
whoever's in
the
chat?
community. Now, I should mention that this topic is a little bit of an existence unconfirmed mystery, so it's not completely clear whether or not it's a real piece of lost media. But if it is real, then it definitely would be considered very rare. It's so rare that only a few claims have even made mention of its existence. But I believe it's a
Um, excuse me. Of course, 4chan, right? Wubba lubba dub dub. Is that true? That is the most cringe things I have ever heard. The Rick and Morty fan base is truly something else. Oh my god.
so rare that only a few claims have even made mention of its existence. But I believe it's a search worth following for the fact that we'd like a solid answer on its status. The thread is titled Lost SpongeBob Closing Logo and discusses an alternate version of the United Plankton Pictures logo seen at the end of SpongeBob. But before we get any further, for those unaware, if you've never heard of the term closing logo before, these are the short ending cards seen at the conclusion of the credits in an episode or show. One of the more popular examples is the AKA cartoon one from Ed, Edd n Eddy, and apparently there is a really big community surrounding these closing logos. So what this topic describes is a variation in SpongeBob's closing logo, featuring United Plankton Pictures, something everyone has probably seen at least a few times before.
Yep.
In the normal closing logo, the logo is seen as sounds of seagulls chirping and waves crashing play. But recently, claims have been spotted that mention there is another version of this closing logo that hasn't been documented before. Nostalgia Guy started the thread by stating, "There's been a trivia tidbit for the logo on the CLG wiki for years, that early split-screen credits of SpongeBob featured a foghorn noise over the logo instead of the usual seagulls and crashing wave noises. Does anyone know if this is true or if recordings exist?" The first few posts from other users claim to recall a foghorn variant, and mention that it was present in DVD releases or in some YouTube uploads, which might have been from VHS captures, but in both of these cases, no foghorn variant was found. Considering the rarity of this variant, if it really does exist, I would expect it wasn't used for very long, and would be easier to source with a more refined time frame of where to search. General Ironbeak provided some more insight about this, and said that the earliest split-screen credits for SpongeBob used audio from the ending theme song, with the earliest use of the seagull chirping audio being from April 2002. This leads to the belief that sometime during the transition of the ending theme song audio and the seagulls that we know so well,
Seagulls fit it so much better though. The foghorn's kind of
he
like
also pointed out
a jump scare.
information that mentioned the foghorn variant's existence on the Closing Logos wiki was not sourced, but had been known about for a long time. This fact got me particularly curious because it reminded me a lot of Astrology with Squidward, and how segments that never existed were added anonymously by
All right, hold on. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna do my little bit of my own research. So, I'm a bad typer. Foghorn and logo. Let me click that. That has nothing to do with it. What maybe? Okay. Yeah, my Reddit account got banned for like no reason. I think I posted some meme and someone didn't like it and spam reported it. So you guys know. I gotta appeal that. Foghorn was broadcast to TV with the years of SpongeBob. It may be the first season or two. The recreation is pretty close to the Foghorn. It was very loud and obtrusive starting, which is why I figured as a kid they changed it to the sequel sound. It was kind of shocking how original translations. I remember back SpongeBob's original airs in the U.S. Nickelodeon. I never owned VHS or DVD of SpongeBob. That you could tell the other older episodes because they retained the foghorn noise, and newer episodes had the seagull. They weren't converted for at least some time until they changed to the seagull, as well as a subtle change in quality animation. I would guess it felt more like it found in the refindings of the original runs of SpongeBob and Nickelodeon U.S. West Coast on DirecTV, if that by any chance is the difference of what is broadcasted. Yeah,
Someone
Hero.
to the Wikipedia article in the mid 2000s. Nostalgia Guy did end up finding the user that added them, however, they hadn't been active since 2014 and couldn't be found anywhere else in the community, so we can't ask them where they got that information from. This resulted in a more hands-on approach to the search for the Foghorn variant, attempting to search through premiere airings of SpongeBob in the hopes of finding it. Season 2 episodes contained the most amount of split-screen credits, and General Ironbeak looked through a few episodes, but they all contained the Seagull audio. The fact that these episodes so early in the timeline do not use the Foghorn highly suggests that it doesn't exist, but it's not 100% proof that the search is over. Vincent Waller was also contacted about this, but it doesn't seem like he replied, and there's no guarantee he'd remember either way. I don't want to add unverified speculation to this topic, but there's something about it that felt like it brought back a repressed memory for me. I could have sworn as a kid I remember seeing the Foghorn variant at least a couple times, and getting scared by how unexpected it was, hoping that every time I watched SpongeBob, it would be an episode that didn't use it. I can't say how accurate that is or is not, because the same sentiment was shared with claims that there was a scene of Squidward transforming into a snail, and that wasn't real either. More searching will determine if this topic really exists or if it is just a false memory. The next topic I'd like to discuss is more of an honorable mention.
I think I've seen most of these, so I kind of want to record a video on a stream. Let's see if I can do it. But basically, I want to make a video talking about the YouTube mod situation. Oh wow, what are you talking about? I literally have over 800 gigabytes. Yes, wait, I need to transfer OBS over to my hard drive. That's what I need to do. Pretty sure. I just put that in network, didn't I? Don't end my stream, don't end my stream. Okay, okay, this thing is tripping.